Comic Boom.
Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Detective Comics issue 1004, and we get more information in this issue on the origins of Astrid Arkham, who is the daughter of Jeremiah Arkham. I wrongly called Jeremiah Amadeus Arkham when I reviewed last issue, but it's Jeremiah Arkham, who of course runs Arkham Asylum. And he's got a long and illustrious history there in his family controlling and running Arkham Asylum. And Astrid Arkham is in fact the Arkham Knight. Now, the origin of Astrid Arkham is quite interesting. There's a couple of issues that I have with it, but it's exciting enough that I think it's worth talking about. Now, Astrid Arkham is the daughter of Jeremiah Arkham and a woman by the name of Ingrid Carlson. Now, Ingrid Carlson was a general practitioner. She was a doctor. She was a general practitioner who worked at Arkham Asylum, and that's how she met, of course, Jeremiah Arkham. And she was known for being very compassionate with the patients. She was a wonderful person, and she was so caring, in fact, that all the inmates, including the Joker, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, they really got to care for her, which is a little bit out of the ordinary because you generally think of the inmates as not liking the doctors, and you always hear about doctors getting killed at Arkham Asylum, and there's always chaos going on at Arkham Asylum. But Ingrid Carlson was actually a general practitioner who was very good at what she did, and over time, all the inmates, again, even including the Joker, began to really care for her, such that when after her and Jeremiah Arkham finally proposed to her, they fell in love, they got married, and she got pregnant, and they're looking forward to the birth of their child. But the worst thing happened at the worst possible time, and that was there was a riot at Arkham Asylum, and it ended up that in the course of this riot, she went into labor, and it was actually the inmates. It was the Poison Ivy, Joker, Clayface, all those inmates basically helped Ingrid give birth to Astrid Arkham. And unfortunately, in the chaos that ensued, Ingrid Carlson, she was actually killed. She was actually killed by a batarang because one of the newer patients sort of freaked out and threw a batarang at Clayface, and it went through Clayface, and it actually got Ingrid in the jugular, and she ended up dying. So she ended up being killed by a batarang. It wasn't Batman's fault, but it was just one of the newer patients throwing the batarang very callously. And in any event, so that was how she was sort of born into the world, Astrid. And she was born into the world, and all the inmates actually loved Astrid Arkham as a child right from the beginning. And Jeremiah Arkham raised Astrid at Arkham Asylum. And over the years, young Astrid Arkham, she was very curious. She was an explorer, and she liked drawing things, and she was an explorer, and she over time, she learned about all the secret places of Arkham Asylum, all the secret places, and she got to know all the inmates. And one of the things that really began to scare her was Batman, because she noticed that every now and then the patients would leave and they seemed to be okay, and then they'd always come back because of something Batman did. And then every now and then Batman would sneak in to Arkham Asylum to interrogate one of the inmates, interrogate one of the patients, and that was during Batman's nocturnal activities. And he would terrorize all the patients and the inmates. And that's how Astrid Arkham saw Batman. So think about it, like Astrid Arkham was actually raised by all the inmates and patients at Arkham Asylum, and who loved her. And the one thing that they all had in common is that they hated Batman. And so she grew up to hate Batman too. Meanwhile, Jeremiah Arkham, who, by the way, has got my vote for probably one of the worst parents you can imagine. Jeremiah never told his daughter. He was never truthful with his daughter about how her mother died. And because he felt guilty. He felt so guilty that he felt out of a sense of guilt because he felt it was his fault. He never did correct Astrid's thinking. He let Astrid believe that her mother had basically left and was living overseas and had left him. He never told her the truth about what happened to her mother, namely that she was killed by another patient, by one of the patients during one of the riots before when she gave birth. And so when Astrid finally finds out the truth, she sees a video, she sees how her mother dies, and the first thing she focuses on is the batarang. So not only does Astrid grow up basically being afraid and not liking Batman, but when she discovers that her mother was killed by a batarang, she makes the connection wrongly, and Jeremiah, foolishly, her father, doesn't even correct the misapprehension. So he really doesn't help things at all. And so as Astrid's getting older and she discovers the truth, she also begins to be educated and trained by the very patients in Arkham Asylum, and they utilized her fear against the Batman, and they helped her fight her fear of Batman by making it almost real. Like one gets the sense that maybe Scarecrow maybe helped manifest some of her fears in the physical world and helped her fight them. So Astrid learned very early on to overcome her fears of even the Batman, because she had all the villains of Batman basically training her, teaching her how to do that. And so, in a sense, there was this really unhealthy, dysfunctional relationship, but one that seemed to work between the inmates of Arkham Asylum and Astrid Arkham herself. Meanwhile, Jeremiah Arkham, he just sat back and let it all happen. It was kind of pathetic what he did, but, he loved his daughter, and I guess, he always lives by as Jeremiah Arkham himself said, as he's telling this and relaying the origin of his daughter to Batman, he's saying, look, I've always lived by one maxim, and that is better the devil you know than the one you don't. And he figured that, well, I mean, my daughter is who my daughter is, and, she'll figure it out on her own. This is her life. And in any event, it's a pretty poor excuse, but it is what it is. And it's hard to believe that Jeremiah Arkham is a psychologist, because I don't know, by any metric, I don't know what would make him think that the way he raised his daughter would be a psychologically healthy way to raise a child. But then, I don't know, it is what it is. Now, one of the things that I find really fascinating about this is this clearly seems to be out of sync with Tom King's Batman. Now, I'm glad that it is, in a sense, because I don't want this to be connected to Tom King's Batman, but Astrid Arkham, no one knows Arkham Asylum better than Astrid Arkham, because she literally knew every inch of Arkham Asylum, every inch of the place. And if she knows every inch of the place, how is this overlapping with Bane taking over Arkham Asylum? I mean, does she not know? I mean, by the way, Bane doesn't really make much of an appearance here. And I suppose I can understand that, but it almost seems that this very much is a different story, disconnected from Tom King's Batman, because if Astrid Arkham knows every inch of Arkham Asylum, she's got to know what Bane is up to, isn't she? And there has to be some overlap there eventually, or I'm assuming that maybe the events of this story take place after the events of Tom King's Batman, which is going on forever and ever and ever and ever and doesn't seem to end. But in any event, so put that out of your mind, because I don't think there's going to be any reconciliation. I don't think that this is in any way connected, because it's really not. You can't reconcile this with what's going on with Bane taking over Arkham Asylum in the pages of Batman. So don't even do that. You'll just get a headache. The best line in the entire comic book is after Batman hears what Jeremiah has to say about the origins of his daughter Astrid and how she became the Arkham Knight. Batman says, "Okay, so that's why Astrid sees me as a curse hanging over Gotham." And that's when Damian says, "Haven't we all at some point?" And then Batman gives him this look, and Damian says, "Just kidding." But that's a great line, and it's just an illustration of how well Tomasi knows these characters, and Tomasi does such a good job writing this. It's clear, crisp writing. It's blunt, short, sweet, and to the point. You really get a sense. You really get into the head of Astrid Arkham. You can understand why she would have these issues with Batman. There's some. It's difficult to reconcile this with maybe some other Batman storylines, but just as a storyline in and of itself, it's just a pleasure to read. And Brad Walker's art is absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love it. It's just the coloring on this too is just fantastic. Nathan Fairborn as the colorist does just a fantastic job. Everything about this issue is a sheer joy to read. Now you can nitpick this, and one can imagine that there's some serious dysfunction going on in Astrid's childhood being raised by the inmates of Arkham Asylum. But there's something that's just sort of fun about it. Imagine being raised by Batman's rogues gallery in Arkham Asylum and having really a very bad dysfunctional father, Jeremiah Arkham, sitting back and letting it all happen and hoping for the best. Better the devil you know than the one you don't. But just crazy stuff. But I really like it. And continuing on, now we know last issue that the Arkham Knight, Astrid let Damian go because she figures that, look, I don't want to harm you. She wants to recruit people, and she's using Dr. Phosphorus to basically burn people's hairs off and brand them. You want to be branded to become a member of the Arkham Knight squad. And she's built something called the Sphere of Light, and she's utilizing the Sphere of Light to create an eclipse in Gotham to burn back the dark, is what she calls it, to burn back the dark. And next issue it's teased that next issue we're going to have an eclipse of the night, and a night of being spelled K-N-I-G-H-T, of course. So what's the motive there? Why is there an eclipse? She wants to bring the light to Gotham like she did in the opening issue with the explosion over Gotham in the middle of the night, creating daylight. Why does she want to burn back the night? What does that really mean, burn back the night? Phosphorus burns things. She uses Arcane to sort of create the Unmen as a further defensive perimeter as Batman and Damian begin their attack at the end of this issue. This is really intriguing. Things are really building up. This issue did a great job of giving us the background of Astrid Arkham becoming the Arkham Knight, her underlying motivations, and it did a really good job of setting up and moving the plot forward as at the end Batman and Damian are moving toward confronting the Arkham Knight and her minions as they move the Sphere of Light into position to create an eclipse at one of the highest points on the outskirts of Gotham City. Guys, this is a great issue. I enjoyed this. This was so much fun to read. This is the Batman title you should be reading, along with The Batman Who Laughs. This is really good stuff. Guys, tell me what you think of Detective Comics issue 1004. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. And until next time, Comic Boom, out.